There are certain movies that when you watch the first hour of it, most of the time you can tell where it's going to go. When it was Madam Web, within the first 30 minutes, I knew I was in for a god-awful, distasteful treat that was going to leave a disgusting aftertaste in my mouth. But with this movie, Dune Part 2, let me tell you, I feel like my life will never be the same again. Within the first hour of this movie, okay, let me rephrase that. Within the first 30 minutes within this movie, I was already having fun with it. I already saw this movie had way more action than the first movie, but it also had a story that had me intrigued from the start. So let me just go into the positives first, and then I'll go into the negatives. This movie is 2 hours and 46 minutes long. Might as well just say 3 hours long. I did not yawn throughout this movie whatsoever, and I was not bored in this movie for a single second. The cinematography, it's far beyond better than what the first movie was. And the first movie cinematography was great as it already was, so that says something. The music in this movie, Hans Zimmer, you deserve that Oscar once again next year. I better see that director. He needs to win Best Director, Best Picture, Best Screenplay, everything. I'm baffled. I'm still just... I'm frozen by it. I gotta say, I really enjoyed every single setting of that movie as well. Like, it really fit the tone. So, not to be one of those people who goes like, oh, I read the book and in the book it was this, or in the book it like this, so inaccurate. Look here, I read the book, the first half of it before the first movie, and I didn't finish it. And I watched the movie, the first movie, and I wanted to finish the book, and I did go finish the book. Now, having read that book and watching that movie as it was right now, it made me appreciate this movie on an entire different level. I'm pretty sure I would have loved this movie already as it was without reading the book. But knowing how the book goes and reading the book, it brought it to a whole new level of appreciation for me. Every single setting in this movie felt like something that was described inside that book. The world that they built in this film feels exactly like the world that Frank Herbert made when he wrote the book of Dune. This book right here was captured phenomenally by the director of Denis Villeneuve. No, not one bad CGI scene in this entire movie. Like, this entire movie did not have an ounce of terrible CGI. Now, if you didn't like the first movie because you feel like it didn't have enough action to keep you in, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy to hear that this movie has quite the amount of action in it. I usually when I do these reviews, right, I'm very chaotic, especially if it's a movie I love, and I'm very joyous, and I'm just loud at the top of my lungs, probably, right? I'm so baffled and I'm so exhausted by how much I love this movie that I don't want to do none of that. So forgive me for talking slow, but the action in this movie was amazing, in my opinion. Like, there's action throughout the entire of the movie. Like, you see action within the first 10 minutes of the movie, and like, you already can tell that this is going to have quite the amount of action into it, but also maintain a great story involved in it as well. The common complaint I hear about the first movie as well is that the main actor, Timothy, who plays Paul Atreides, is very emotionless, apparently. People think. They say they don't like him as an actor in this movie because he just seems like he's just there acting very dull, no personality, and it just made them not care for the character. I think those people don't realize that that's supposed to be the character's whole attitude and persona for the first half of the story. But let me tell you, if you didn't like his character in the first movie, I think you'll like him a lot more on here, because Timothy has a lot he has to work with in this movie. The death of his father from the first movie, the pressure of everyone thinking he's going to be their messiah, and the thought of like he wants revenge, but then he sees things differently as the movie progresses on. I think, honestly, it had a better, more explained love story than the book did between Zendaya's character Cheney and Paul Atreides' character. I actually cared about the love story going on between them and how it progressed as well in the story. Also, let me point out another thing. Batista, you proved to show that you belong in this business. I will tell anyone that when it comes to WWE wrestler turned actor, who do I think will win an Oscar out of those bunch first? Batista, one day, and for all I don't think it's going to be for this movie, unfortunately, but one day, Batista, I truly believe you will win the Oscars for Best Actor of the Year or Best Supporting Actor of the Year. You continue to prove why you belong in this acting business every single time you come on that screen. You did with Knock on the Cabin. You did with Blade Runner 2049. I don't even see how you didn't get nominated for that. You should have already been the first wrestler to be nominated for an Oscar. You do some truly remarkable work, Batista, and I will always be a fan of Batista because you can tell he cares about the craft that he puts out, what he does. He cares about this craft, and it shows, and I appreciate it. So the massive thing I really want to point out, and honestly was my favorite part of the entire movie, in my opinion, Austin Butler. He plays Fade Ralpha. You took a character that was already a pretty dark, so to say, character in the book as it was, and made him even darker. In my opinion, I think he was more scary and frightening than the Baron himself. That's just my opinion. Austin Butler, if you guys don't know, is the man who played Elvis in the Elvis movie last year. And a lot of people were like saying that, oh, it's a great actor to play Fate Ralpha. But if you don't know, Austin Butler had a problem, it seemed, for a while, where after playing the Elvis role, he couldn't get rid of the Elvis accent in real life. He still had it. It was just stuck with him, right? People were curious about how is his voice going to be in the Dune Part 2 movie. And I think they knew that people were curious about this because if you look at any of the trailers, he does not talk in any single one of them. They wanted you to find out how he's going to do in the movie. See, a lot of people were saying that they were avoiding showing him talking in the trailers because they want to hide the fact that he's going to sound like Elvis still. And let me tell you, it ain't Elvis. It ain't Elvis. For my Mortal Kombat fans, it was more in common with Kano from the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. That's the type of vibes I got, but even darker. Austin Butler, he did his thing. When they showed him in the introduction, I felt goosebumps in my fucking spine. I felt goosebumps in my arm. I felt the hair on the back of my neck rise up. That was filmed beautifully. It was choreographed beautifully. Like, just the whole atmosphere of that scene was the moment where I said, I am watching a true cinema in the making. Also, I just want to point out the ending of this movie. Now, going into this movie, I've had certain complaints about the book, right? As much as I like the book and love the book a lot, I wasn't too crazy about the ending. There were certain characters, stories that we got word of in the book or just that was mentioned in the book, and I feel like we didn't get a certain type of closure with certain character stories, side character stories in the book, and I don't know, it felt like they just forgot about it. And if you read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. In this movie, you get that closure that you wanted in the book. I mean, some people might disagree with me, some people might say that I don't know what I'm talking about, but look here, I read that book and I paid close attention, and when I saw that a certain closure for that character didn't come in the book, I went back to the pages just to make sure I read it correctly, that I didn't accidentally skip the page. And I didn't. They just kind of ignored it in the book. In the movie, they don't ignore it, and I actually like that. I was very pleased. That was the biggest wish list I have for this movie, is that they just fix that closure with this certain character, and they did, and I'm happy they did. The fight scene between Paul Atreides and Fade Ralpha, That was another. This was another thing I had on my wish list. I hoped that that scene was going to be just pure fighting, no music. And let me tell you, that's exactly what it was, and then some. That fight scene was so beautifully choreographed. I don't think I've seen a fight scene that amazing in a bit of a while, probably since Mission Impossible Fallout in the bathroom scene, or maybe the Bourne Legacy films with Matt Damon. You know how they always have that one scene in the Bourne Legacy films, in the Bourne films, where they're just fighting and there's no music and all you can hear is fist and just brutality. They do that in this movie with Fate Ralph and Paul Atreides, and let me tell you, that scene alone was a perfect amount of length, and it had me hooked. I was hooked. I'm gonna just be real with you right now. This is gonna be a very sloppy review because I don't know how to process this in a better way. I'm gonna try to trim this as much as I can to where this is shortened, to where I don't know, but this movie, in my opinion, is already movie of the year. If I had a top 10 list movies of the year, this is already at number one, and I haven't even seen the other movies. It's going to be very hard to top this movie at this point, and I don't think anything will. The final rating I'm going to give this movie is a 10 out of 10. If I can give it anything higher, I would. But I'm going to stay true to my 10 ranking. It's a 10 out of 10. Finally, we have a movie, the first movie of this year that's actually phenomenal, that's actually enjoyable, not that Madam Web bullshit that we got. I recommend anyone to see this movie, honestly. And also, I just gotta say, any boomer who says that, oh, the original is still better, oh, this movie is bad, the original did it better, fuck you. That's all I gotta say about that. You have no good taste. You can't accept the fact that someone younger can just redo what you did and do it better. Yeah, I admit sometimes there's remakes of original shit that are just god awful compared to the original. The original is superior, but don't give me that bullshit with this movie. If you say the original Dune movie, the David Lynch film, is better than these movies, I'm just gonna say you're stupid. Like, there's no other way around it. You got to be restarted. I'm sorry, but I'm accepting nothing less at this point. And honestly, we can throw hands about it. I don't care. With that being said, it's your boy Jaragunza with a very sloppy movie review. I'm sorry, but I'm baffled. I'm going to see this movie at least 3 more times in IMAX. And that's another thing. If you're going to see this movie, see it, do yourself a favor and see it in IMAX. See it on the biggest screen that is possibly capable in your city to see it in, and you will not regret it. This movie is made for the IMAX experience. It's been your boy Jaragunza. Y'all take care. Have a good night. Yeah. Wow.